Good afternoon. I'm just here to go over this case study. I found this to be a very rewarding part of the class, being able to kind of model and show how I would address this as a future administrator. First of all, the problem identification and analysis piece. In the school law book, cyberbullying involves the use of electronic devices to send or post hurtful, embarrassing text or images intended to create anxiety, intimidation, or emotional distress in another person. And in this situation, this was done from a student to a teacher. So first of all, what do I know? Ms. Walker and Dr. Forbes are highly qualified professionals. You can tell by the fact that Dr. Forbes was voted Teacher of the Year, Ms. Walker by her commitment to her classroom, even putting her family ambition second to her classroom. This is an affluent community where parents are educated and competitive, which can pose a whole new set of issues when the parents aren't happy. I have known this to happen with sports, especially in things like competition for valedictorian and salutatorian. Those parents sometimes feel that their money and power can carry over into the schools. So Ms. Walker has been cyber attacked by a student in the form of threats or defaming. It has crossed the line into being a school issue because she has been attacked by a student with the intention of creating anxiety, which was clear by her phone call to her administrator. And other students were asked to respond about their opinion of her disappearing. Dr. Forbes is aware of the history and conflict the students have had with Ms. Walker in the past, and it is obvious that he has addressed this with her at least one time. What do I need to know to move forward? First, I want to know when and where were the comments made. Were they made on the school device? Were they made during the school day? Or were they made at home in the evening? Was it one student or more students? Are there any particular students that may stand out or have a history of this type of behavior or have any motivation? Could it be that they had failed something, that they have been kept out of playing in a football game or participating in a forensics debate because of something occurring in her class? Is this a credible source? Was this something that was intended to just heighten sensitivity in the whole community, or is there a real threat there? And how are the other students responding? That can be very telltale. So my problem here is Ms. Walker has been cyber attacked by her students based on her academic performance as a teacher, her relationships with kids as well. It has affected the school community and must be responded to immediately, and the guilty party must be identified. My plan of action first would be, like I said, to identify potential students. But I think you have to be careful. Like Essex said, school personnel should have reasonable grounds to believe a search of a particular student is necessary to provide proof that the student has violated a particular policy, rule, or law. I think it's important to not falsely accuse students and be sure that you're being factual and fair. So first thing would be to identify the students by reviewing grades and academic data paired with behavior reports. I would interview various students with very open-ended questions to gain any helpful information while maintaining respect for students and Mrs. Walker. Maybe asking questions that don't lead into the situation or give any specifics on the actual post or which teacher we're talking about. Also, diffuse the situation, just as he did on the phone, encouraging her kind of to do what she did in that evening and just think about it a little bit. And I'm glad that she took the steps she took as well. But I would support Ms. Walker throughout the investigation. I would allow for another professional to be present in the classroom the next day or through the next few weeks to protect Ms. Walker and the students while allowing for documentation. If necessary, you could allow for a temporary sub just to kind of keep those two parties separate for a few days. But I also want to be sure that the students aren't getting what they want in having a different teacher in that classroom. So that would be absolute worst case scenario. But my main goal is to improve the relationships. I would meet privately with Miss Walker, not to be accusing, but just simply to discuss relationship building strategies like we had in the past, offer professional training or workshops to her funded by our district, or ask for documentation of her activities and any communication that could be preventative of future incidents. As far as resolution, I think alternative consequences, like talked about in our school law book, should be sought to minimize suspending, expelling students, such as parent conferences, Saturday detention, and alternative school placement. I think meeting with students and families in a group meeting with Ms. Walker to come to reasonable solutions, those involving consequences, for sure. Offering different scenarios. I would just lay it out on the table. Here's our first option. First, I could have you remove your comments and have you choose a free time where you can come up with some sort of plan to work out your relationship with Miss Walker and come up with an idea, whether it be a note, some sort of dialogue that you guys could have, weekly meetings, or a game you could play to get to know each other's learning styles, share your motivation for learning, what makes you engaged as a student, what kind of activities would motivate you, and have each student and the teacher do a little reflection and positive relationship building, where the student has a little bit of choice in the matter as well as accountability. You can choose your time. Do you want to do it after school? Do you want to give up your lunches? Do you want to come in on Saturday and do that? And you come up with a plan. Student isn't accepting of that, you go to scenario 2. You can remove your comments, you can accept an in-school or out-of-school suspension, and you can be given a plan by me to improve your relationship. Or the last, in the scenario we really don't want, is to be have your comments removed, you can be expelled, and we can get authorities involved in this. And so hopefully through this positive interaction, me modeling professionalism, Ms. Walker modeling professionalism, and the parents and having an open line of communication, we can come to some sort of balance in this. As far as when I read through this, I as a teacher, as a future administrator, know that I am held to a different standard, especially because every choice I make influences the students I teach. And I do believe that we should adhere to high standards of professional conduct inside and mostly outside the classroom. I know that crosses over into some personal rights and privileges that we should have too, but as I was reading this, I feel wholeheartedly that teachers should be supported by our district until proven guilty. This teacher has been defamed, and from what it seems to be unfairly. I don't know about the word disappear. I think if that student would have said, who would like to see Miss Walker killed, that's a whole nother avenue. But this could be disappear, meaning we want to put pressure on her to be unhappy, to eventually leave the district, to quit. That's kind of the way I personally feel that this was motivated and going. I do appreciate how Dr. Forbes handled her phone call. I thought it was smart of her to stay elsewhere, probably a little overkill, but if that's what made her feel safe. Ms. Walker should refrain, and any teacher I have should refrain from responding verbally on the internet, on the web, through any type of response, personal as well, while this is being investigated and handled, to make really diffuse it and prevent other issues from arising from this. So, let the district handle it. Always have other people around, other professionals, and also be careful. Encourage Ms. Walker and really myself as an administrator, do not treat any students different the next day based on suspicion, and that can be hard, I think. Document. Like Dr. Forbes had told Miss Walker, you need to start implementing these strategies to work on relationships. And at this point, I would ask, what have you done? What can you show me that you've done to grow as a teacher with your students? And that way you also have grounds to stand on there. Teachers in this situation should be self-reflective also. Why are these problems occurring? Are they consistent? Does it all have to do with a certain assignment? a certain topic, your method of presenting your material, and then what can we do to make our students more engaged in their learning and take ownership and reduce the amount of issues that are arising. As far as professional code of ethics, both students and staff should have a clear and effective way to express concerns before the issues escalate to this level. Students should not be falsely accused, teachers as well, or investigated. And if so, it should be done with dignity and respect in how you do it. Privately, following just a very clear code of ethics and a step-by-step procedure that is very open-ended and transparent. Administrators do have a moral and ethical obligation to communicate unwavering support of staff without informing other staff members, parents, and students of past reports or reprimands involving the teacher. You should not be able to sit down with these parents and say, well, I have had other reports of this teacher and I am handling it. Those things should be kept very, very private. It is not moral or ethical to express personal opinions throughout the case of the students or the teacher. Everything should be based on factual data and moving forward in a positive manner. I believe a lot of the situation will be handled the way it is modeled by me, the professional administrator in the case. To ensure that the students' fairness and equity, students should have the right to learn with a reasonable curriculum, and the teachers should have the right to teach within reason as well. And that's something that can be documented and proven through several things. Legal counsel should only be sought if the case continues to escalate, really. Some examples of how I chose to handle this as an administrator. I investigated fairly, interviewed all parties. I did not ask for specifics. I did not ask guiding questions to let anybody know information they didn't need to know. I wanted to have proper grounds to enforce any consequences, so I needed to gain data for that, and I needed it to be fair and accurate and recent. I stood forceful against the affluent community and did not let parents pressure my decisions. I made the choice to diffuse the situation, turn it into a learning experience, and minimize the effects on other students. I maintained control while giving my support and offering multiple solutions. The resolution I chose to come to encompassed positive interactions, opportunity for growth on all parties, and time for reflection, which I really think is the power in this. Can I turn this into a situation where everybody grows, everybody learns, and moves forward in their future careers as students are having real-world experiences, and teachers as they grow and change and adapt professionally? Further investigation. If I want to pursue this any further, if it gets escalated, I would ask these questions. Are all students' reports related to the same issue, and is it resolvable? Again, is it all one assignment? Is it the method that this teacher delivers, or is this some sort of personal agenda that somebody has against her that has nothing to do really with her classroom? Should this teacher and students remain in the same environment in the future? If there's future upcoming classes and there are other teachers that these students should be paired with, could we do that? Not necessarily so that the parents and students get what they want, but just to prevent further issues. Maybe this is just not a good match. Are there legal steps that the teacher or student can take outside the district if necessary? Should the district attorney get involved in this? Does the teacher have the right to pursue legal stands and charges that has nothing to do with the district? And what resources can I provide the families and the teacher in this situation so they feel supported without having my opinion thrown in there or what I believe? I think it's important that the teacher and the students know that this is serious. I'm taking it serious, and I will do everything in my power to support both of them and stay strong in that, even if it means that I am not in that district any longer. What's best for kids should always be at the forefront of my decisions, and if that can't be upheld by the community I'm working in, then I've chosen the wrong community. So again, this book was very powerful in this final case. I was able to flip through some sections I hadn't spent a lot of time in, so I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.